Hey everybody, welcome to the inaugural, or shall we say the pilot episode of Ring and Ryan Incorporated.
The first winter, the early spring, late fall.
Yeah, we'll get to that story. But the first episode, the inaugural episode of two dudes arguing life over beer. So, two dudes, I'm one of them, he's the other one, arguing life. Now, hopefully, not really arguing. And I guess the point of doing this show is that you can have differences of opinion and differences of lifestyle in your life, but you don't have to argue over everything. That seems to be the theme of society today.
You can talk and understand each other better and maybe disagree, but you'll understand where everybody's coming from and where each other's coming from, and you find the common denominator, the common ground.
I've always thought, look for the commonality. It's so much easier if you just understood the commonality that you have in life. And of course, the last line, over beer. One of the things that is very... oh, by the way, I'm Tim Ryan of Ring and Ryan.
And I'm Jerry Ring.
Jerry Ring.
Ring and Ryan.
Of Ring and Ryan. We met back in 1977 in high school.
I had hair.
And mine was black. I was 15 turning 16.
15, 16.
Yeah, so like we were 15 turning 16 that year. We may have actually probably did meet when we were 15, now that I'm thinking about it. 1977 would have been before our birthdays. That would have been our junior year. So it was in high school. But the last line, over beer. One of the things, even in those days, a common theme in our life was beer and acquiring it. So we're going to
drinking age was 18 back then.
Yeah. Oh, very different. Very, very, very different time. So 15 and 16-year-olds acquiring beer and drinking it. Not that unusual. So this is something that we have always enjoyed, is drinking beer. So we're going to enjoy some beer. But even there, we don't necessarily agree about our beers. We'll discuss that. So if you think about it, in 1977, we were so young and life was so simple. And I think you can say this about all 15, 16-year-olds, teenagers, high school kids, even college kids. You haven't really figured yourself out yet.
You're both excited and nervous at the same time. Everything is new, everything is fresh, and yet everybody's still learning about themselves, and for that reason they're insecure with how they deal with other people.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. But the point I was getting at here is that at that point, our opinions are really not very. Our opinions are not very strong. They're not very educated per se.
A little fluid. A little
very fluid.
Based on what was popular at the time.
The pressures.
Yeah.
So, the commonalities were massive. Like, we were all just young kids trying to figure life out in a nice little town called Uniondale, New York. And as these episodes progress, Jerry and I will introduce a little bit more of our life back then. Maybe we'll even bring in some of our old friends from back then, because we are still, many of us, still very good friends.
Sounds good.
But life was very simple then. We did not find much difference in our lives. Like, we were very, very similar. Our goals were all the same. But as you grow older,
the goals were to get a car and meet a girl, but not necessarily in that order.
That's exactly right. Or get a new record player.
Yeah, yes.
Bigger speakers.
Yes.
Goals were very, very different then. And but as we grew, you started to realize that we started to have independent opinions that were not necessarily in alignment any longer. The beauty for the two of us is that never got in the way of a friendship, right? And I'll never forget at one time, because we were actually arguing once, and I was very grateful to hear you say, I at least can talk to you about it. And I was like, I hadn't really thought of it, because I am open. I want to hear other opinions, even if they differ. If they differ.
Yeah, and you know what? We are all one brain. And we see our own feelings, we feel our own feelings. And very often that gets in the way of seeing the other person.
Yeah.
Communication and understanding can move mountains.
Well, so the unfortunate part of all of that is that today I have a libetard for a friend.
And I have deplorable for a friend. But we're still
Plural.
friends.
We're still friends. So as you can see, like as our life progressed, we took very different paths after high school. Jerry spent about 30 years in college.
28 and a half, but who's counting?
I spent 2. And then I immediately went to work and inevitably started my own business. We just had different paths. Jerry went corporate. You can see, I do not dress like Jerry. You know, Jerry likes the suit and tie, the collar.
The power image. The
power image.
The power orange tie.
I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. So the point of two dudes arguing life over beer is to really showcase, we're going to discuss real issues. Some will be controversial, some not so much.
Some we will have different opinions on, some we won't.
Right. Now, and I will let you know that most of these things we do not discuss in advance. Like, that's kind of the goal, is to make this very organic and see where it all goes. And I will tell you that this graphic right here is the inspiration for today's topic. But before we get into it, I do want to now share a beer with you.
Absolutely.
And this is one of those situations where
We will differ.
we will differ. So I brought 2 beers. One is one of my favorites. I happen to like more darker, heartier beers.
He has a little more Irish blood in him than I do.
That could be it. That could be it. And Jerry likes them a little bit lighter. So the one I picked for us to try is a Sam Adams called Chocolate Bock. And I really, really want to hear Jerry's opinion on this one. And what's this one? This is a blonde, a Belgian ale. Now, I will tell you that the first time I had a Belgian ale, I was in England.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, you want to pour it so we can both try it?
Yep.
And I'll pour you a little chocolate Bock.
All right, there you
Well,
go.
I'm going to pour you a little because
Yep,
I
yep,
suspect you're not going to like it.
Yep.
And this one I'll try myself. All right. So I'll try the Belgian ale first.
And I'll try the Bach. And
right.
whoa. To our first
To the
inaugural
inaugural.
episode.
Yes, thank you, Jerry, and to our friends who are watching, and to hopefully many, many episodes of intriguing and interesting topics.
Conversations to our millions of viewers. Interesting effervescence.
All right, so
I can taste the chocolate.
You can taste the chocolate,
I can
right?
taste the chocolate, absolutely. And maybe even a little coffee. Could there be a little coffee in there? Maybe? I'm
that
not
could
sure.
be. That could be.
Maybe it's the Bach I'm tasting.
Chocolate, smooth complex. It doesn't say coffee, but could be. Now, I will admit, I'm not a fan of Belgian. Typically, they're white, and my first Belgian was white.
Okay.
And I really didn't like it. This has some flavor.
It has flavor, and it's not as heavy. This can get you want one of these on a nice cold winter day.
Yeah.
To warm you up.
That's typically when I
Yes,
like
yes,
these.
yes.
But this, even though it's blonde and very light, it's got flavor, and that's really
has
my
flavor, yes,
criteria.
yes.
You give me a
Yes.
Coors Light,
Yes.
there's not much to that.
Yeah, we graduated from the lights and so forth, and the
Yeah.
Miller Lights after high school. Went to quality beer. Once you got a full-time job.
Jerry and I walked into an Associated grocery store in high school, doing everything we could to get a 6-pack of Miller High Life. It was. Oh, we were so nervous. But fortunately, the girl behind the register was not much older than us, and she just took our money and let us go. I'll never forget that because I was nervous. All right, so that is not bad. I will have my favorite. This is the chocolate Bock, and you're right. It only comes in the winter collection. You have to buy it
for a
as-
reason, right.
Yeah, so you have to buy the whole case, with the variety to get the chocolate Bock. But
And notice that it's a very patriotic Samuel Adams glass.
yeah, these are. I have a lot of glasses. Maybe as we move forward, I'll bring all of my Hard Rock glasses.
There you go.
So I have a whole collection of those.
Okay, sounds good.
This is dark. It is smooth. It is heavy. It's not light like the other, but it's hearty. That's what I like. Actually, when I first took a sip of that, it reminded me of wine.
I could see that.
It has like a wine
yes,
overtone
yes.
to it.
You can taste the oak stainless steel barrel that it was fermenting in for years.
I have had, I don't know if you've ever had this, but they brew beer in whiskey barrels.
Do they really?
Oh, man. So you have to like whiskey. because it is not subtle.
Okay.
So
okay.
it's beer.
Okay.
It's beer.
Okay.
But it has a real, like you can tell that this is like oaky and smoky, and it has the bourbon or the whiskey flavor to it. It's not like it's more whiskey than beer. It's beer, but very, very funny. They do the same thing with wine and beer, but I've never had it.
Never had it. No.
No.
I'm not a whiskey person. I've tried it a little bit. It's not my cup of tea.
Yep. So before we get into today's topic, and I just want to show you a couple of different things before we take our first break. So this graphic right here that you're looking at, two dudes arguing life over beer, is AI created, and it was a free app that I found on the internet, and I just started playing with it. I also, because Bobby here at Paradise Studios, who by the way is our technical producer here, he does an absolutely amazing job, Bobby.
Shout out to
Thank
Bobby.
You. Yep, thank you. Paradise Studios, Massapequa, New York. He's going to show us some of the graphics of the originals when I first started going through the computer and coming up with these. And the first one that I put in was just a logo. He had asked us for a logo, for a graphic. And I'm like, yeah, there you go. Two dudes arguing over beer. This is the first one that I came up with. And you have to put in words and phrases before it will give you the graphic. This one was a logo creator. This was not an AI graphic creator. It was a logo creator. And it just took the title I gave it, Two Dudes Arguing Over Beer, which was the first words I gave it.
Pause there for 1 second. It's interesting you say words. We communicate by words, but we actually also communicate by a lot of other things. Facial expressions, context, emotions. The computer's not picking that up. So
No.
two people speaking about an idea like this, the recipient will probably sense the emotions, the passions, whatever, but the computer just needs those objective words and can only work off of that.
So you're exactly right. And that is what, when we come back after our first break, we're going to really get into a little bit more detail of this. I just wanted to introduce this first. So this is just a graphic. If you look at let's go to the next one, Bobby, because you can see some of these artistic interpretations of the words. So Jerry has not seen these. Jerry has not seen these. But I should have read. So the first one, I knew this would make Jerry laugh. So the first one was just a graphic, and I put in like, two American dudes or whatever I wrote in there. Two dudes, American flag, whatever. So this one I got a little bit more detail, like drinking beer, sitting on chairs, like whatever I wrote.
Yeah, 2 beers in each hand. Are we that bad?
Yeah, exactly. This is its interpretation of what I'd put in there. And because this is how clever this is.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, this category was claymation.
Okay.
So you can see
Okay.
this is claymation.
Yes.
Bobby, can we go to the next one? Whatever the next one
Which is fascinating that the computer can do that so quickly.
Yes. So as I got a little bit further in, and I'm giving it more detail, I didn't say more beer, but it gave me more beer.
Okay.
And it kept giving me guys with beards. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. So now some of the other things I had to add, right? So I had
This
to
is like Santa Claus.
And that's very funny to me. So I did have to make sure, like, American flags, they're both very patriotic. We're both very, very American. And if you look at the graphic, look at I guess it's a coffee pot, just like floating in the air. The beers are floating. And so I had to make sure that we're smiling. Like these started to change. I put to make sure that we're
But that's
smiling.
interesting. But the floating beer cans, it makes no sense generally, although maybe in some context it could.
Right. It's just so funny. So
Yeah.
then I got a little bit more detail. Like I tried to say, one of the guys, I tried to say the difference, right? One of the guys will be wearing a button-down shirt, right?
Okay.
Trying to describe you more than me. And I even wrote a guy on a hockey jersey. So you can see, and this started to give me words. Like I'm not going to fill all this in, but this is just some of the stuff that it came up with. We started to get a little bit closer. Still, two guys with beards, but they're not happy.
No, right. They're having
not
a very
happy.
serious
So I
debate
don't know.
there.
So I
think one was questioning.
smiling, and is that the Texas flag? Like, what is that? So this was actually pretty close because I started to say one guy has a gray beard, one guy doesn't.
But we're both in the nursing home, it looks like.
Yeah, it does. And is that a Texas flag? I don't even know what that is. But I tried to say one guy has gray hair, one guy doesn't. This is some of the stuff that it came up with. Was that the last one, Bobby? Is there more? one more. Oh, and this one here. Like, okay,
This beer's on fire, it looks like.
so that's what. So this is. These are the descriptions that get generated. These, and we'll get into this after the break of what this meant. So I wrote two men in their 60s, and I had to really break it down.
Okay.
Sitting in recliner chairs. I didn't know how else to describe that. Sipping. Oh yeah, that was a funny one too. I like that one too.
The American flag doesn't know which way to go.
Yeah, it was so. And I'll get into the details of this. We're running over.
Wait, there's also a hand there that's just coming out of in the middle.
Yes. Yeah, right. A third hand, sticking it in there. So I wrote sipping beers, arguing over politics, just looking for a word. And I actually wrote, one man has no hair on his head, no facial hair, and no beard or mustache. And one man has short gray hair and a gray beard, just to see if they could do the differentiation. I did write there are American flags. I was just trying to create color and decoration. Some of them, I didn't save them, but some of them had us smoking cigarettes. And I was like, we absolutely do not
don't do that.
smoke.
No.
So I put that in there. I tried to make it different. Again, I wrote, one man is a sports fan, not knowing what it would create with that term.
Right.
And I tried to write, they both have big smiles. They both have big open eyes. I did not like that they were, closed eyes. And then I wrote one man has a button-down business outfit and the other man is in a hockey jersey, just to see what it would come up with. So AI is our topic, and we may go a little bit into more deeper detail about AI and what that
the
leads
impact,
to.
the implications, the concerns, and the benefits.
And first, we're going to take a word from our sponsor, who right now, this first episode, is me. I'm the sponsor. We'll be right back. All right. Thank you. Thank you for entertaining those 90 seconds. That is my company. I represent Isagenix. And maybe at some other point in the future, we can actually get into a little bit of detail about our passion projects. Mine is now health and well-being, having gotten sick and really found health. So yeah, this does not help. This is not this is not healthy. But those two commercials were about hydration and NAD, which is
And a little moderation, a little unhealthy, enjoyable in moderation is manageable.
We call it balance.
Balance.
We call it
I
balance.
love the word balance. Balance is such a key word that I think is almost locks everything else. Nature, the competitive aspects of nature.
Yeah.
And the animals and wild eating each other are in balance.
Yeah, very good point.
Yep.
Very good point. So I do want to take one more sip of my chocolate Bock. Another toast to our second segment. And we're going to talk about AI. I have some opinions about AI and how it has affected my life and my business, but I first want to ask you your response, your reactions to those graphics that you just saw.
So my initial reaction was, of course, chuckling. It was very funny, very the interpretation, the flying hands, the claymations in the chair were very funny. And we can laugh, but I think we need to also step back for a second and realize what we just saw, which was a computer, a box with chips, creating an image that does not exist and filling in very well, maybe 90% right, the nuances of that image, the shading in the chair, the proper arm twists or hand motion. Now, yes, it was a fifth arm in one place or a flying bottle, but the computer did very well. And we can chuckle, but at our own risk, because technology will change, things will improve. And as an example, look at the Wright brothers. The Wright brothers in, 1910, were flying a very funny looking plane that was made out of, twigs almost, and cloth. 50, 60 years later, we're landing on the moon.
On the moon, right. And think about all those, what we now view as comical failures.
Yes.
In air flight, right in the beginning, right?
Yes,
So,
yes.
And again, you have to have the failures.
Yes.
Right? You have to have the flying hand.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
random beer in the air.
Some of those original helicopters were crazy,
All
but
of them.
they led to what we see today.
Yeah. So the reason I thought about this, right? So if you're looking at this graphic and you're like, hey, that's not so bad. Let's just say even 10 years ago, we'd have had to pay somebody a significant amount of money to create caricatures of us following the descriptions that we were that I just fed it, that I gave it.
Right.
And this was free on the internet.
Free and minutes or maybe an hour to accomplish.
To do all of that, yeah. Honestly, if I spent 45 minutes, probably.
Yeah.
Probably a lot to do this. Now, I assure you that this is not going to be our last graphic. This is our first graphic. This is the first attempt, and I'm grateful because it gave us a very interesting topic to talk about. So what I wanted to throw at you is this. In AI, all right, so let me just preface this by saying, I read an article about AI. And
you read? That's good. Just teasing.
One of my favorite magazines is a Libertard magazine called Wired. It's very, everything's from the liberal perspective. It doesn't mean I don't enjoy reading it because there's great stuff in there. I have to kind of dissect it. And
I'm going to go back to balance for a second. Both political spectrum and this political spectrum, both sides can have good ideas.
Yeah.
Good observations.
Yeah, so I enjoy this magazine. Now, this article I was reading was about AI. This is a while ago, so I just kind of took it for what it's worth. However, they brought up some very interesting points. Before there was photography, every image that you saw was somebody's painting, right? So the artists, the painters, were extraordinarily threatened by photography, by the invention of photography.
Right.
And the question that the article posed was, did photography put the artists, put the painters out of business? Well, of course the answer is no. There's still people today who still do portraiture, who still paint. It did not take it away.
And it gave another dimension to art that wasn't there before.
Right.
As well as other benefits of photography.
So this article got into pretty good detail about how the artists took advantage of the photography. And when you had a photograph, man, there were a lot of nuances in it that you weren't able to collect necessarily when you're trying to paint it or draw it live. So I was like, well, that's really interesting. Now, as a photographer, or as a former, I think I'm tapping my microphone, as a former professional photographer, I had never even thought about what came before me. It never even dawned on me that artists would have been threatened by that.
And that the artists had, let's say, clout, with the king at the time, and blocked the development of photography and stopped it as a threat to their job, where would we be?
Yes, and we're going to talk about that too, because I find that very, very, very interesting. The article continued, it got into a lot of detail about AI creating photographs. Very realistic, human-like photographs. And will it affect the photographers? And now I had a sense of threat.
Right.
That is very, very real. If you can type in the image you want, you don't need me to go get that. And whether it's stock photography that is an entire industry, or work for hire.
And room for abuse then, because prior to AI, a picture was, submittable as evidence, if you will.
Right.
This was fact. This is objective fact. Now that picture can be questioned.
Exactly. And now there are points where you can see that this is not real. Today. And I happen to think that it's getting realer and realer.
Yes.
That's the proper phraseology. But this is what I learned. I was talking to a friend of mine. His name is Rudy Pollock. You know Rudy.
I know Rudy.
So Rudy, great.
He was a photographer at my wedding.
Yes, he was. Award-winning photographer. We worked for each other many, many times. I love Rudy. But Rudy, a great photographer, very quickly went into AI and was creating extraordinary images that are very, very real, very, very lifelike. Some of them are just graphics. Some of them are actual photographs. And we were just chatting, and because I asked him, how does he do that? And like those phrases I was feeding it, he says it's the terms that you use. Now, he gets into a lot of detail with specific colors and styles. He got into a lot of detail with that, but he's able to create what he likes, his artistry, using AI. So he was able to go from actual photography to AI photography because he had to learn a new form of artistry.
So I recently saw a documentary about Da Vinci and how much his paintings are influenced by the technique of painting. It's not just seeing and hand control, but it's knowing how to draw the line to have the light look one way,
yes,
or how to create a smooth texture versus a rough texture. All those techniques, which are the building block of a good artist, is now becoming the words.
The words.
Yes.
Yeah. So the future artist in photography may not be the guy literally looking through a lens anymore, but the lens is in his head.
Right.
Right. A true artist, the lens is in his head. He knows what he wants to see, but now the way to create it is very, very different.
My concern, though, is with AI, you can't stop progress, but progress could have negative implications. Almost every step of progress, planes are great, the quick travel, but then we have plane crashes. And it can be used for a military purpose. Every part of progress can have a downside. What is the AI downside, and how do we protect ourselves from it?
Well, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know, which is why I guess it's a good conversation to have because, listen, I think in our next segment, we're going to get a little bit more into not just the AI advancements, but just technology advancements, automation and all that kind of stuff. Because in one breath, Rudy was able to go from using the camera, the lens, not even film anymore, but the concept of film, to using his words, that the thoughts came out of his brain, go into the computer and creates images. But what does that do to the industry of photography? Is it going to take away the photographer? And the point I'm getting at, and I know we'll get into more detail in our last segment, photography has become so inexpensive. What we used to call the barrier to entry, right? A photographer needed thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment to get into the business. Even more in video. It was, tens of thousands of dollars to get into the business. And let's face it, today.
And today, you see those commercials for the iPhone, and this picture was taken by an iPhone. It's a very impressive picture.
Yeah.
So you don't need that long, maybe to do it right, you do, but you can do a lot with the lower technology, which on one hand lowers the barrier to entry, but on the other hand allows more people to enter. The producer, Bobby, and I were speaking before we started here about music and the impact that technology has had on the music industry. Records are not the profit center anymore.
No.
So it's changed the dynamics of the music industry, but it's also allowed it to expand and have more people enter the music industry because the barrier is lower. So a lot more artists can be producing. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. It's diversified and decentralized from what it used to be.
Yeah. So again, to your exact point, in my industry, my previous industry, I was a wedding photographer and wedding videographer. The barrier to entry went down, more people came in, what they didn't know is what they were doing was worth. So the price of their product was very, very low.
Right, but the quality
was low with
yes,
it. But what
yes.
ended up happening, and this is where we're going to get to in the next segment, is that they didn't care. The customer stopped caring that the quality was higher with this professional.
Yes.
So inevitably I left.
Yes.
Because it wasn't worth fighting
Yes.
anymore. So it's very interesting, right? So I'm all for AI. I'm all for new technology. I'm glad that everybody takes pictures today. There's millions and millions and millions of pictures on Instagram. They're not all good.
And you get overwhelmed. You stopped. I think you sometimes, yes. And then do you appreciate them as much?
So that is really the key, and they don't. They don't. And that is, I cared more about what I was doing with my imaging in the wedding business than the brides and grooms did. And inevitably, I got deflated. So we're going to take our next break, and we're going to get into robotics, automation, all sorts
And
of
the
different
impact
stuff.
of AI.
And the ultimate impact of AI. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Thank you for hanging out. That was a little commercial for BIA, right? One of our commercials there, one of our health products is an energy drink. And little do people know that the energy drinks you get at the supermarket are extraordinarily bad for you.
Full of sugar?
Not just sugar, but synthetic caffeine. And too much. It's too much. It can actually cause damage. 100% natural. And that's a little bit of a balance, right? If you're going to have an energy drink, at least make it a healthy one.
Balance is so important. Balance is key.
Third segment.
Third segment.
We're going to wrap it up after this. Cheers. Damn, that's good.
So is AI a net plus or negative?
So in my opinion, it is a positive. It is a plus. This is what I can say right now.
Right.
What impacts does it have?
Yes.
The impacts are going to be extraordinary.
Yes.
Extraordinary. There will be, with everything else, there'll be errors, there'll be omissions, there'll be biases, there'll be all sorts of things that are not going to be accurate. But I'm still for that. I'm still for that progress.
You can't stop progress. It's going to happen. You might need to regulate it, control it a little bit, guide it.
I'll just stop you there because I want to say that anything that is regulated is clearly from the mouth of a libertard. Like you don't regulate, like you can't.
Well,
you have to find the problem before you say the word regulate.
Well, let me explain what I mean.
Go ahead.
Yep. To the deplorable. So cars, I think. So the technology went from horses to cars, right? And we regulate cars probably differently than we regulated horses. If we didn't regulate cars, cars probably would have been a disaster. How do we regulate cars? A couple of ways. Safety devices within the car, right?
Took years to develop them.
Yeah,
but
it took years,
yeah.
and experiences of accidents to say, hey, we need brakes and taillights and headlights at night.
Different glass. We need.
Correct. Yep.
Yep.
And even the roads themselves. When cars first came out, there were no red light cameras. You drove anywhere you want. You see some of those old videos of New York City with cars going,
Yes.
everywhere. The chaos would have would have been an obstacle to adapting that technology to usage. So by creating a structure, and I say regulate, I know regulation has a bad connotations, but think of it like a ball game. There's regulations in the ball game. Those are the rules, right?
Yeah,
the rules, 3 strikes, you're out.
Yep.
Here's the diamond. And now you can play a nice game within those confines of those rules. So that you could drive on one side of the road and you have to stop at the red light and the green light. That creates organization out of chaos and it makes the intersection functional. So I'm just thinking out loud, but to me, AI like computers are invisible and we get nervous about things we can't see. What are the links? What are the connections? And who's programming right and wrong in that AI?
Yeah.
Who's deciding as we adapt the AI to other features? Who's programming what the priorities are of AI of an automated car?
Yeah. Well, to your point, and it's funny because I was talking to computer people who really understand the computer world and languages and programming. And I was, again, reading an article that said that the people who are creating AI they're telling the computers not what to do, but what to learn.
What to learn, right.
And once the computers are doing that learning, it's writing its own programming, and the authors don't understand what the computer wrote.
So now, a couple of questions. We'll start there. What if the computer learned wrong? Or what if it was fed the wrong information?
Yes.
And if you have a bad person, if you will, who was programmed wrong, you tell the person to stop or you arrest them and so forth.
Yeah.
And you remove them from society because they're doing damage. How do you remove an AI virus?
Yeah, I mean these are
Yeah,
really
I don't
big,
want to answer. I'm just
big questions.
Yeah.
But I did find it interesting that the person that I was explaining this article to said absolutely not. They have to know what the computer itself wrote. And I'm going, I'm not there. I'm just telling you what it said.
Yes.
And they said that it's doing its job, but they don't know what it writes.
And what it knows, what its decision-making pathways are.
The original programming was, this is a dog, this is a man, this is a woman, this is gray hair, this is a beard. Like they have to identify that, and then it goes through millions and millions of images, and people are telling it what they see.
Right. So I heard that with the Tesla, they were downloading a lot of video of the cars driving to help influence the computers. The computer could see the real-life car make a real-life decision and then evaluate the basis of that decision. Oh, there's a lady on the corner with a stroller, so the car slowed down. Got that.
There are people who say that Tesla is not a car company.
It's a computer. Yeah,
it's a computer company. It is a data gathering company.
Yes.
And I was so struck by that, but I said, I think that's accurate.
I would say data gathering and deployment, if you will, uses the data to then do something. So it processes the data to drive the car, either from the individual or from, it's informing the individual with the screen and the maps, or the self-driving car from comparing the road condition it sees now to the experienced road conditions it has in this database.
Yeah. So, all right, let's look at the technology, not that AI has created, but let's just say the technology that is now available to us. And we could look at so many different things, but there's one in particular that's striking me right now because it's in the news. But you look at what Amazon has done, not just in gathering our information about what our preferences are, but those warehouses that do not need people. That just boggles my mind that I can click a button on my phone and that product doesn't touch a human hand.
Since it was maybe since it was made, even maybe the manufacturing had limited touch of human hands.
Fascinating to me. Go ahead.
Two thoughts there. One is And when it comes down to it, we need humans. Otherwise we're just a rock floating
Yeah.
through the solar system.
Well, this is what I really, because there are people who will say we are just consumers, and I'm like, that is terrifying.
Yeah,
to me.
human nature needs to do something. We like making something.
Yeah. So we've had conversations about multiple things in our lifetime, and I think you said it even earlier today about automation, and it's taking away human element. I'm going to bring this specific one up because it's big right now. That's the longshoremen. I don't know if you've heard this story.
No,
or
good,
not.
good. I have not.
So I mean, obviously, for the import and export is
Yeah.
millennia.
Right.
That there are men who
Or women.
of course, who load and unload ships and
Right,
trucks
right,
and
right.
carts and and to this day here in New York, on the West Side, or in Brooklyn, or on the Jersey side, there are ships constantly coming in with goods that need to be unloaded. And I remember the original shipping cart. I read a lot of articles about the original shipping cart and how that changed.
The container, when they
container,
developed the container.
sorry,
Yes.
the container.
Yes.
But now even moving the containers off the ships onto the trucks and telling the trucks where to go is being automated. And it's going to eventually, I think, eliminate the need.
Or do away with a lot of the longshoremen. Yeah.
do away with a lot
Yeah.
of them. So they are uprising right now.
Yeah. And next will be the drone cargo ships themselves.
All of it, right. So there's so much to it. And I took it personally because I know a longshoreman. He's one of my favorite grooms from when I was in the wedding business. And I feel bad. I do feel bad that he may lose a career. It's been part of his family for generations. And it kind of freaks me out. But I think the one thing that we agree with is that you can't stop this. You can't stop the advancements.
Agree, you can't stop it. I think computers, although this has been said before and wrong, are different than the advancement of other machines, like you said, photography and the printing press and so forth. Computers came into the office and got rid of the secretaries, but now we have this whole complicated IT department. A different skill set, but still a lot of people. But I think this time it feels different. Between the artificial intelligence coupled with the drones, it seems like there's a net negative elimination of jobs, not a shifting of jobs. I'm not sure what we're shifting jobs into. What does that longshoreman friend become? And my other question is, as AI gets smarter, humans aren't changing. Humans are the same since the Wright brothers developed the airplane and before. Machines are advancing, humans are not. At what point are we beginning manipulated, either by the machines or by other humans utilizing the machines in a way? And it happens today with the algorithms in social media. We don't realize how we're being manipulated, and to what degree will AI take that? AI will be delivering you the package before you even realize that you want the new pair of shoes.
You know that's right. You know that is very real.
Yes.
That they anticipate and will ship you at a risk to them.
Yes.
They're so confident that their algorithm is right.
That you need a new candle, and when you get it, you're going to say, "Oh, it's a great candle."
I'm so happy about that.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a very interesting conversation, and I guess in some point in the future, as this show develops, maybe we can bring on other guests who can share their opinions. And actually, right now, you can
and tell us where we're right and wrong.
you can make fun of the deplorable and the libertard all you want, but you can put it in the comments. We'd like to hear what you have to think about this stuff. I am concerned about where the technology is advanced. Listen, me as the professional photographer, professional videographer, I knew my time was up. Right? I knew my time was over and I had to move on. I will tell you that it was tragic, literally tragic, for me to have to figure out what to do next. But I guess we all have to do that.
But people are still people. We still want to raise families, get married, and make something of ourselves and do something. And what is that human desire going to look like in the age of AI?
I can't answer that. And I'll, before we take our last break, I will add that you're so right about the algorithms, because I know this is going to, I do like social media, but there was a long period of time that it just upset me because it was so negative. It was so negative. However, I learned how to manipulate the algorithms, and I kind of ignored the stuff that upset me. Do not spend any time looking at it. Do not like it or angry. Don't reply. And in time, the algorithm changed, and that stuff kind of went away, and the happy stuff kept coming up. We're going to take a break, and we're going to wrap up when we're done. But I want to find out where we have commonality, where we disagree, and then we'll discuss our next episode.
Sounds good.
All right, take a break. All right, welcome back. Listen, that shake that you just saw was one of the first products that literally changed my health. Like that one product really set me in a whole different direction. So for those of you who are looking to look better, feel better, live a healthier life, you let me know. Jerry, Jerry, this has been great. And
I very much
I'm
enjoyed
enjoying this conversation.
Yes.
It's really not different than every other time we get together and share beer.
Except for this time, there's a few more lights. And
yeah, that is true. A little bit different. So I'm going to ask you the question, where do you think in this conversation do you feel that we agree, where do we disagree?
I think we agree that AI is an unknown mystery. We don't really know the full impact, what it's going to be, and it's likely to impact people's lives. I think we agree that we can't stop it. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. We might disagree as to is there a role for government, if you will, or some entity, it doesn't have to be government, to put boundaries on it, rules, limits, and so forth. That remains to be seen. But I think the basic point is that the libtard and the deplorable will have disagreements, but we will also have a lot in common and a lot we could share. And we want to understand each other's differences and learn from it.
Yeah. So, and there we do agree. I'm not for regulation by default. I'm not. Mm-hmm. But I do agree that when, I will say when,
yeah,
I don't think that it's
there now.
When we find abuse or problems or it's creating a problem, it could be and should be investigated, and perhaps guardrails can be put up. But I'm not for doing that by default. I want to see where it goes first. I do think inevitably somebody is going to do the wrong thing. That is kind of human nature. We will be talking a lot moving forward about current events. So I don't watch the news much anymore. I think that maybe you'll be giving me information I'm not familiar with. But we're going to talk about current events, different activities. Jerry is far more intellectual, shall we say?
Oh, I don't know about that. I just pretend
cerebral.
to be.
Let's say he's cerebral. I am emotional.
I play one on TV.
Yeah. So our responses to life they're going to differ. They're going to differ.
And that's a strength, not a weakness. And that's where the balance between the two, learning with each other, makes both of us better and stronger.
Right. So whether you are a dark chocolate Bock or a light Belgian blonde ale. Cheers, Jer. All right, we'll see you at our next episode Episode 2 coming soon. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good day. See you next time.